We often seek to answer the question, who is God, from various perspectives: religious, philosophical, personal, and spiritual. It's a question that transcends time, culture, and belief systems. To understand who God is, we first have to acknowledge that God is not confined to human logic, finite language, or our limited understanding. The answer to this question lies beyond the realm of human comprehension, yet it is also deeply connected to our personal experiences, our search for purpose, and our sense of the divine presence in the world. In many religious traditions, God is seen as the ultimate creator, a force that transcends everything we know and experience. He is not just a being in the traditional sense. God is the source of all things, the force behind the universe, and the one who gives life meaning and purpose. But who God is isn't simply about the beginning of things. It's about a relationship, a connection that beckons each of us to seek Him out, to recognize His presence in our lives and the world around us. Throughout history, people have sought to understand God through Scripture, through prayer, and through lived experiences. They've looked for God in nature, in moments of awe, in acts of kindness, in times of joy, and even in sorrow. While God is beyond our understanding, He has revealed Himself in ways that are accessible to us through His actions, His words, and the nature of His being. And yet, even as we explore who God is, we must recognize that there will always be more to discover, more to understand, and more to experience in the ever-deepening relationship we have with Him. And God is also seen as the sustainer, the one who holds everything together. This isn't a God who is distant or uninvolved, but one who is intimately engaged in the world and with the people He has created. His presence is woven into the fabric of life itself, in every heartbeat, in every breath, in every moment. We see God through the lens of compassion and justice, mercy and truth. He is the embodiment of perfect love, the giver of grace, and the source of all goodness. As we reflect on who God is, we are invited not only to observe, but to participate in His story, to embrace His love, and to be transformed by His presence. God, as the ultimate creator, transcends any concept of time, space, or materiality that we, as humans, can fully grasp. He is the origin of everything that exists, from the smallest particle to the vastness of the cosmos. The universe and everything within it were brought into being by His will, and every atom, every living being, every celestial body reflects His creative force. This creative act is not merely a past event, but an ongoing process, as God is continuously sustaining the universe He created. Our finite minds may struggle to comprehend the full extent of God's creative power as it defies human limitations. We can observe the beauty, complexity, and order of nature, yet we know that there is a mystery behind it all that we cannot fully explain. The laws of physics, the cycles of life, the intricate patterns of the natural world all point to a creator whose wisdom and intelligence far exceed any human understanding. Even as science uncovers more about the workings of the universe, we are confronted with the realization that the more we learn, the deeper the mystery becomes. God's creation is not just a one-time event. It is a continuous outpouring of His will. Every moment, every change in the natural world, every new life brought into existence is a reflection of His ongoing act of creation. He is not detached from the world He made, but is intimately involved in every aspect of it. The very fact that the universe continues to exist and function with such precision is evidence of God's sustaining power. Without Him, everything would cease to be. This creative power of God is not confined to the material world alone. God's creation extends to the unseen realms as well, including spiritual realities. The human soul, the essence of consciousness, and the moral fabric of existence are all part of His divine creation. He has created humanity with a purpose and endowed us with the capacity to recognize Him, seek Him, and be transformed by His love. But even in the midst of this awe-inspiring creation, God remains beyond our full comprehension. His nature, His motivations, and the scope of His will are far beyond the reach of human understanding. He is infinite, eternal, and omnipotent, while we can experience him in glimpses through the beauty of nature, in moments of profound insight, and in the love we share with one another. He remains ultimately mysterious. His ways are higher than our ways, and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. We are only able to perceive a fraction of his infinite nature, and the more we attempt to understand, the more we are confronted with the vastness of his being. Yet it is in this mystery that we find his greatness, his ability to be both immanent and transcendent, to be both personal and infinite, to be both creator and sustainer of all. The divine presence, in its truest sense, is not something limited to ancient writings, rituals, or sacred doctrines alone. While religious texts have served as powerful conduits for understanding and connecting with God, the divine is not confined to these scriptures or symbols. God's presence extends far beyond the pages of any book or the walls of any temple. It exists within the very fabric of our lives, manifesting itself in our daily experiences, our encounters with others, and our moments of reflection and insight. One of the most profound ways the divine presence becomes tangible is through personal experience. It is in the quiet moments of solitude, in the rush of joy and the depths of sorrow, that individuals often feel a deep, unexplainable connection to something greater than themselves. This connection isn't always clear or easy to articulate, but it is real. A sense of knowing, a feeling of being held, seen, and understood, even when words fail. These experiences, often referred to as moments of grace or transcendence, point to a divine presence that is intimately involved in the lives of individuals. In relationships, the divine is also made known. We experience the presence of God through the love and compassion of others. It is in the selflessness of a friend offering comfort, the patience of a family member providing care, or the kindness of a stranger reaching out in times of need, that we glimpse the divine. These moments reveal the profound truth that God works through us. His love, his care, his compassion flowing through human connections. When we love one another, especially in ways that transcend self-interest, we embody something of the divine nature, reflecting God's own relational essence. Moreover, the divine presence is felt in the moments of shared humanity. In our struggles, in our triumphs, and even in our flaws, God walks alongside us. He is present in our deepest moments of joy as much as in our most challenging times. The struggles we face, the pain we endure, and the growth we experience can all serve as pathways to a deeper awareness of God's presence. It's not just in the high moments of life, like weddings, births, or moments of success, that we encounter God. Sometimes it is in the lows, in the valleys of despair, in the quiet whispers of a troubled heart, where his presence becomes most evident, offering comfort, healing, and understanding. While these personal experiences and relationships with others give us glimpses into the divine, they also point to something larger. The understanding that God's presence is woven into the very world around us. From the beauty of nature to the intricacies of human connection, God's divine hand can be felt in every moment. The rhythm of life itself, each breath, each step, each heartbeat, serves as a reminder of his continuous presence, not as something distant or far off, but as a deep, pervasive force that permeates all existence. The divine is not distant, waiting for us to find it in texts or temples, but active, engaged, and accessible in every moment of our life. It is through our experiences and relationships that we come to know that God is not only present in religious rituals or sacred moments, but also in the ordinary, everyday moments of human existence. God, in his essence, is not a distant, abstract force detached from the world he created. Far from being an impersonal, uninvolved deity, God is integrally woven into the fabric of life, actively sustaining it and guiding creation at every level. The very existence of the universe and the ongoing processes of life are not the result of a one-time act, but are an ongoing interaction between the Creator and His creation. God's presence is not only in the beginning of things, but He is also involved in the present, continuously maintaining and guiding everything that exists. From the smallest organism to the vast reaches of space, everything in the universe exists because of God's sustaining power. The laws of nature, which we observe and seek to understand, are not just random occurrences or abstract concepts. They are part of God's deliberate, ongoing work to keep the universe in motion. Every heartbeat, every breath we take, every moment of life itself is sustained by God's will. The sun rises and sets not by chance, but because God has set it in motion, maintaining its course with precision and order. Similarly, the complex cycles of nature, the seasons, the life cycles of plants and animals, the rhythms of tides and weather, are all governed by God's laws and are a direct reflection of His involvement in the world. God's guidance is not only found in the physical world, but also in the spiritual and moral dimensions of existence. He actively leads and directs the course of human history, guiding the paths of individuals and nations. While people often have the freedom to make choices, God's hand is seen in the overarching direction of the world's development, in the ways that justice, compassion, and love find expression in human societies. Even in times of hardship, His presence can be felt, guiding humanity toward greater understanding and growth. In moments of peace, He whispers through the hearts of those who strive for unity and love. This divine involvement goes beyond a passive form of creation and extends to active engagement. In each of us, God sustains not only our physical lives, but also our spirits. He is the source of our purpose and the one who leads us toward deeper understanding and fulfillment. Whether it's through moments of inspiration, dreams, or quiet intuition, God guides our hearts toward truth and love. He is not removed or absent, but is actively present in the struggles, the decisions, and the growth we experience on a personal and collective level. Even when we cannot see or understand His work, God's hand is guiding creation toward its ultimate purpose. His guidance is not always immediately visible, and often it requires faith to trust that He is working even in the most chaotic or painful times. Yet it is in these moments that His presence can be most profoundly experienced. When we turn to Him for strength, when we seek meaning in the midst of struggle, and when we trust that He is shaping and sustaining the world, even when it seems like everything is falling apart. God's involvement in the world is not just a passive oversight, but a dynamic, interactive presence that shapes and nurtures the very fabric of existence. He sustains life by infusing it with purpose and meaning, and His guidance is a constant loving force that shapes and directs creation toward fulfillment and harmony. Through every breath we take, every thought we ponder, and every action we undertake, God is present, sustaining life and guiding us toward the divine order and goodness He has designed. God's nature is revealed most profoundly through His acts of compassion, justice, and mercy. These divine qualities which transcend human understanding are the ways in which we experience God's presence in the world and understand His character. Unlike an abstract or theoretical concept, God's love is made manifest in tangible, real ways that touch the hearts of individuals and transform society. His acts of compassion are not merely emotions or sentiments. They are deeply rooted in actions that demonstrate His concern for all creation, especially for the vulnerable and the suffering. Through these acts, God shows that His love is not distant or disconnected, but actively engaged in the lives of those He created. Compassion, as revealed through God, is not just about feeling pity or sympathy from a distance. It is about entering into the pain of others, understanding their suffering, and responding with grace and care. The Bible, for instance, portrays God's compassion as something that leads Him to move toward those in need, not away from them. This is seen in the many instances where God reaches out to the brokenhearted, the oppressed, and the marginalized, offering healing and comfort. The life of Jesus, in particular, is a powerful demonstration of divine compassion. Jesus healed the sick, cared for the outcasts, and wept with those who mourned, showing that compassion is not just a passive feeling, but an active, life-changing force. When we witness or participate in acts of kindness and mercy, we encounter the divine at work in the world, showing that God's compassion is not limited to ancient stories, but continues to unfold in the lives of his followers. God's justice, while often misunderstood or reduced to a harsh retribution, is deeply connected to his perfect love and mercy. Divine justice is not about punishing for the sake of punishment, but about making right what is wrong, restoring balance, and ensuring that righteousness and fairness prevail. God's justice is founded on a deep love for all of creation and a desire for the flourishing of every person. It is an act of love that desires to restore broken relationships, heal systemic injustice, and protect the dignity of every human being. His justice does not overlook sin or wrongdoing, but it also offers a path to redemption and reconciliation. God's justice calls for truth to prevail, for oppression to end, and for those who are wronged to be uplifted and protected. This justice at its core seeks not to punish out of anger, but to restore, heal, and bring about a world that reflects his goodness and righteousness. Mercy is another fundamental way God reveals himself. While justice requires that wrongdoing be addressed, mercy goes a step further. It is God's willingness to withhold what is deserved and offer forgiveness and grace instead. God's mercy is shown time and time again in Scripture, as he forgives those who repent and extends grace even to those who are unworthy. It is in God's mercy that we find hope, as it assures us that no matter how far we have fallen or how much we have strayed, God's love is always greater than our failures. Mercy allows for transformation, healing, and new beginnings, and it invites us to participate in the same mercy toward others. When we show mercy, whether through forgiveness, kindness, or compassion to those who have wronged us, we are acting as conduits of God's divine mercy in the world. These acts of compassion, justice, and mercy are not isolated virtues, but are intertwined, each reflecting the others. God's justice is compassionate, his mercy is just, and his compassion is filled with a desire for what is right and good. Together they form a beautiful picture of God's perfect love, a love that is not passive or indifferent, but is active, restorative, and transformative. Through these qualities, we come to understand that God's love is not a vague, sentimental affection, but a force that works in the world to heal, restore, and uplift. It is a love that transcends human understanding and invites us to reflect his goodness in our own lives, reaching out to those in need, standing for justice, and offering mercy to others, just as we have received it. In these divine acts, God's perfect love is made visible, showing us the depth and breadth of his care for all of creation. Understanding God is not a one-time event or an intellectual exercise. Rather, it is an ongoing, dynamic relationship that unfolds and deepens as we engage with him in our daily lives. God is not merely an abstract concept to be studied or a distant being to be acknowledged from afar. He is a living presence, actively inviting us into a deeper communion with him. Just as meaningful human relationships grow over time through shared experiences, conversations, and trust, so too does our understanding of God evolve as we walk with him, seek him, and allow him to shape our hearts and minds. This relationship is not built on passive acknowledgement, but on active participation. God does not force himself upon us. Rather, he calls us to seek him, to listen, and to respond. Engaging with God means more than just knowing about him. It means experiencing him, recognizing his presence, and allowing that presence to transform the way we think, act, and love. It means turning to him in moments of joy and gratitude, as well as in times of struggle and doubt. As we invite God into the details of our lives, we begin to see his hand at work, not only in grand, miraculous ways, but also in the quiet, everyday moments that reveal his faithfulness and love. One of the ways this relationship deepens is through prayer. not as a mere ritual, but as a true conversation with God. Prayer is not only about asking for help or presenting a list of requests. It is about seeking His guidance, expressing our deepest thoughts, and learning to listen to His voice. Over time, as we cultivate this dialogue with God, our perception of Him shifts. We begin to see Him not as a distant ruler, but as a loving Father, a wise teacher, and an ever-present friend. Through prayer, we learn to trust, surrender, and rely on His wisdom rather than our own understanding. Another essential aspect of engaging with God is through the way we live our lives. The more we align our hearts and actions with His will, the more we come to understand His nature. Loving others as He loves, showing grace and forgiveness, pursuing justice and seeking truth, these are all ways we participate in the life of God. Our understanding of Him does not come solely from reading or studying, but from embodying His principles in our daily interactions. Each act of love, every moment of selfless service, and every choice to walk in righteousness brings us closer to grasping who God truly is. This relationship is also strengthened through times of testing and challenge. Difficulties and trials have a way of refining our faith, pushing us to rely on God in ways we never have before. It is in the moments of struggle that we often encounter the deepest revelations about His character, His faithfulness, His provision, and His unwavering presence. When we face hardships with a heart open to God, we move beyond surface-level faith and enter into a profound trust that goes beyond circumstances. We begin to understand that knowing God is not about having all the answers, but about trusting in the one who does. Furthermore, our understanding of God deepens as we recognize Him in creation, in relationships, and in the beauty of life itself. God reveals Himself not only in sacred texts, but in the intricate details of nature, in the love between people, and in the moments of grace that shape our journey. The more we pay attention to His fingerprints in the world around us, the more we come to know Him not just as a distant deity, but as an ever-present reality in our lives. Ultimately, understanding God is not about reaching a final destination where we have everything figured out. It is about walking in relationship with Him, continually growing, learning, and drawing nearer. It is a journey of discovery where each step taken in faith leads to greater intimacy and deeper awareness of His love, His wisdom, and His eternal presence. God's essence is not something that can be fully grasped through human logic alone. His nature exists beyond the limits of our reasoning, beyond the constraints of our intellect, and beyond the boundaries of what we can measure or define. If God could be completely understood through logic alone, He would cease to be infinite. He would be reduced to something within the grasp of human minds, no greater than the systems of knowledge we create. Instead, He transcends human comprehension, inviting us into a journey of deeper understanding that goes beyond mere intellect and enters the realm of faith, experience, and reflection. Faith is one of the primary ways we come to know God, not as a substitute for reason, but as a means of embracing that which reason alone cannot explain. Faith does not reject logic, but it acknowledges its limits. Just as a child trusts a loving parent even without understanding every decision they make, so too are we invited to trust God even when we cannot see the full picture of His plans. Faith is not blind belief. It is a response to the evidence of God's presence in our lives and the world around us. It is through faith that we open ourselves to divine wisdom, allowing our understanding of God to grow beyond what human reasoning can provide. Experience also plays a crucial role in our understanding of God. While theological studies and philosophical debates can provide valuable insights, they alone do not fully reveal the depth of God's presence. Many of the most profound encounters with God happen not in academic discourse, but in the moments of life that shape us, the times of joy and suffering, of loss and renewal, of seeking and finding. It is in these experiences that we begin to perceive God's guidance, His provision, and His love. A person who has seen prayers answered, who has felt an unexplainable peace in the midst of chaos, or who has been transformed by divine grace, understands God in a way that no argument or logical reasoning alone could provide. These experiences, whether subtle or profound, serve as testimonies that deepen our knowledge of who God is. Reflection allows us to piece together the truths we encounter through faith and experience, forming a more profound understanding of God's nature. As we contemplate His presence in our lives, meditate on His words, and seek wisdom through prayer, we begin to recognize patterns of divine involvement that might have otherwise gone unnoticed. Reflection allows us to see how God has been working in our past, how He is shaping our present, and how He is leading us into the future. Through this process, our understanding of God is not just theoretical, but deeply personal. This journey into deeper understanding is not meant to provide simple answers or eliminate all mystery. Rather, it invites us into a relationship with a God who is far greater than anything our minds can fully grasp. We may not always understand why things happen, why suffering exists, or why certain prayers go unanswered, but as we walk in faith, experience His presence, and reflect on His ways, we come to know Him, not just as an idea, but as a living reality. The more we seek Him, the more we realize that true understanding is not about defining God within human logic, but about being drawn into the vastness of His truth, wisdom, and love. Our search for who God is goes far beyond intellectual curiosity or theological debate. It is, at its core, a reflection of the human soul's deep longing for purpose, meaning, and connection to something greater than itself. This search is woven into the very fabric of human existence, manifesting in every culture, across every era, and within every individual who has ever wrestled with life's most profound questions. Why are we here? What is the purpose of life? What happens beyond this world? These questions, though varied in form, all stem from the same fundamental desire: to understand the source of our existence and our place within it. In searching for God, we are ultimately searching for the truth that gives meaning to our lives, for the foundation upon which everything rests. This longing for meaning is not accidental, it is intrinsic to our nature. From the moment we become aware of ourselves and the world around us, we are driven to seek significance. We search for meaning in our achievements, in our relationships, in our work, and in the experiences that shape us. But no matter how much we accomplish, how much knowledge we gain, or how many successes we accumulate, a deeper hunger remains, one that cannot be satisfied by material things or fleeting pleasure. It is a hunger for something eternal, something beyond the limitations of this world. That hunger is a call toward God, even when we do not recognize it as such. It is the soul's way of reaching out toward the one who created it, the one who alone can provide the fulfillment that nothing else can. In our search for God, we are also searching for connection to something greater than ourselves and to one another. The longing for God is deeply tied to the longing for relationship, because God Himself is relational. He is not a distant, impersonal force, but a being who desires communion with His creation. This is why, throughout history, people have sought God not only through personal reflection, but through communities of faith, worship, and shared belief. Whether in times of celebration or suffering, humanity has instinctively turned toward the divine presence, seeking reassurance, guidance, and belonging. Even those who reject traditional religious structures often find themselves drawn to something spiritual, something that calls them beyond themselves, beyond what is tangible and explainable. Moreover, the search for God leads us to a deeper awareness of the divine presence in all things. God is not confined to temples, churches, or religious texts. He is present in the beauty of creation, in the depth of human love, in the whisper of conscience, and in the moments of grace that shape our lives. The more we search for Him, the more we come to recognize that He has been near all along, not hidden, but waiting to be seen. In the intricate details of nature, in the kindness of a stranger, in the quiet peace that settles over us in times of prayer, we begin to perceive His hand at work. Ultimately, our search for who God is reveals something essential about our own identity. It shows that we were created not to live in isolation, confusion, or meaninglessness, but to be in relationship with the one who gives life its ultimate purpose. The desire to know God is the desire to find our true home, to align our hearts with the source of all love, truth, and goodness. It is a journey that never truly ends, because the infinite nature of God means there is always more to discover, always deeper understanding to be gained. Yet, with every step toward Him, we find that He is not only the answer to our deepest questions, but the fulfillment of our deepest longings, the one in whom our restless hearts find rest. And so the search for God is not just a quest for knowledge. It is the pursuit of the very essence of life itself. It is the longing written into every human heart, the call that echoes through history, and the invitation that stands before each of us. To know God is to find the purpose for which we were created, the love that never fails, and the truth that transcends all understanding. And though we may never fully grasp His infinite nature, the journey toward Him is where we find meaning, fulfillment, and the deepest connection to the divine presence that has been with us all along.